right, welcome everyone to today's II Ask the Expert. We're going to go ahead and get started. Today we have Amy James from the University of Wisconsin and Caleb Pilukas from University of Michigan for our amazing fundraising ideas that they're going to share with you. So thank you both for taking time out of your busy days and sharing your ideas with us. We are recording the videos will be available later. We ask that everyone goes on mute so we don't have any background noise. Amy's going to present, and then Caleb's going to present, and then we'll open it up for questions at the end. If you have a burning need to ask a question during the presentation, you may use your chat feature, and we'll be monitoring those as we go along. But we will open it up at the end for sure. We have two fantastic presentations to share with you, so we are going to try to keep it time-wise to that hour. So that's why we kind of want to keep questions to the end so we don't get too off track with that. With that, I will turn it over to Amy, and we'll get started. Thanks again.
Hello, everyone. Pull up my screen for you. So today I will be presenting on our annual summer benefit, which is called the Badger State Polo Cup. It's essentially a polo game we host. The players vary, location varies. We've had indoor and outdoor. We usually try to have a partner who we split our profits with. And we try to have a polo match. We'll have a catered meal option for people, a silent auction, and then typically our partners will do a halftime demonstration. This is our primary benefit fundraiser for our club, so we try to make it pretty big. It's been a little hard hosting it in the summers because the students leave. But as I mentioned, we have our halftime presentation. So here you can see a picture of our Whalar current partners showing how to assist a downed animal. The Madison Police Department came last year, basically just to ride around for fun. They didn't serve any exact purpose. It was more just cool to see them. Here you can see a picture of our indoor venue last year where we had our VIP catered meal. Typically it's tables of 8. The food varies, but typically they'll have some options and they can pick what meal they would like. They invite friends, family. We had 20 tables last year. This was our outdoor year 2 years ago. Ideally, the students get to play to try and make it more personal to the club. Sometimes that's a little harder with outdoor because a lot of our students don't play outdoor polo, and due to insurance and legal reasons, we can't have people playing in the benefit that don't play with the outdoor club as well. So I'm just going to go over the basics of what I think about when planning our event and key points I think for planning any large event, whether it's a game or just a dance or a dinner. The first thing that I always work on is selecting our fundraising partner. I like to partner with another nonprofit. Logically, it just makes the most sense from a donation standpoint. I also think it shows good community outreach and affiliates your club with a local cause, which I think has helped us bring in more donors personally in the Madison area. There's a lot of considerations for a partner, but the big things are how involved do you want your partner to be, and what do they have to offer. So how many reservations can they bring in? What kind of donations can they bring in? How big is their donor base and their outreach? How much you agree with their mission and their goals. I also like to think about how easy it is to communicate with them. I've had partners in the past that it's very hard to get an email response or get them to answer a phone call. I think it's important to make sure that the person you partner with is going to be easy to communicate with. I think you should also consider how decisive they will be. It's been very helpful to have a partner who contributes to decisions and helps us make last-minute calls, which inevitably come up with horses and polo. And then you'll need to discuss with them how you want to divide proceeds. Historically, we've done 50-50 with all of our partners. We have been looking into changing that breakdown because we tend to do more of the work and bring in more of the reservations. So consider that, consider what each program will be bringing to the event. Our current partners, I showed a picture of them, is the Wisconsin Large Animal Emergency Response, or WALAR. They're our partners because many of us volunteer with them. I work extensively with their president. He's actually my boss now, but he was not my boss when we first partnered with them. They work in the equine field, and they have a pretty strong donor and sponsorship base. So we've definitely, and because they're in the horse world, we've pulled some of those people into Polo as well, which has been beneficial for our program. When considering your event, you're going to want to think about your what, where, when, and who. So for us, the what is a polo match designed to demonstrate the sport and entertain the audience. Like I said, I like to have the students play. I do always try to have one stronger player on every team to keep it exciting and entertaining. I'm sure everyone knows if you have all students playing, sometimes it just turns into a big circle. Like I said, you can consider this for other events as well. Just the what do you want? How are you going to keep people invested and committed? How are you going to draw in reservations? The when, you may not be able to pick an exact date without your venue, but it's good to think about what time of year you want. Does it matter what time of day? Does it need to be morning, afternoon, Saturday versus Sunday? We usually do ours midday so that we can have the lunch option. But just a weekend day. We've done Saturday and Sunday. Both have worked well in the past. I think we got reservations more easily on a Sunday. Couldn't tell you why, but I've noticed that over the years. The where is probably one of the hardest parts for us, at least in Madison. Finding a venue that has what you need, is available, and is affordable can be difficult. Like I said, we did outdoor our first couple years, but due to all the rain we've been having, we've hardly been able to practice on our outdoor field. So the last 2 years, we've had to move the benefit indoors. Finding a large enough venue to hold 300 plus people and a big enough arena for a polo match and space for VIP meal seating has been difficult. So this one I like to put numerous students on, contact many venues, get price quotes, availability. Venues also vary in what they allow for food. Some, like Alliant this last year, did not allow us to bring in any food or drink, so everything supplied had to be paid for, including water. So that's a big one to consider. Also consider what your ideal profit range is, because obviously if you're trying to make a certain amount, you don't want a venue that's too expensive. The who is a big one because you have to consider who's volunteering, who's playing, who's going to provide the meal. Someone should be supervising silent auctions if you have one. In my opinion, we've had some issues with theft in the past, and people tend to have questions in that sector of the event. So I think it's good to have a designated person. The more help, the better. A lot of these jobs overlap, so you need multiple people to fill those roles. Some details on our event following these decisions. Outdoor versus indoor I talked about. Supplies you'll need. For our outdoor, we needed a tent, tables, chairs, porta potties or restrooms, trash, decorations, water. Make sure you have water for people and horses. Parking space can also be a limiting factor, so consider how big you want your attendee base and then what venue can support that much parking. Our costs for outdoor for the field are about $1,000, plus the tent rentals is another $1,300. Our indoor venue was only $1,000, but the catering was about $2,000 more than our previous catering had been because they require you to use their specific caterer. Porta potties in Wisconsin are around $500. I don't know if that's the same across the country. And then for indoor events, we've had to get separate insurance, which is around $500 as well, to cover all the spectators, horses, players. Considerations that we have encountered in the past or overlooked and realized we should have thought more thoroughly about. Accessibility. Do you have any people coming in wheelchairs or with disabilities? Our partners 4 years ago was a program that worked with disabled kids through horseback riding. So we had to really assess, like, assigned parking for those people. So make sure you consider that. Profit loss, how much are you trying to make? How are your expenses going to be? Volunteers and players. Obviously, your players cannot also be volunteers during the game because they're going to be playing. Who's bringing horses? Who's bringing trailers? Where are they going to park? Are they going to stay for the whole event? If they're not, how are they going to get out without interfering with the rest of the attendees? Again, water sources, and then setup and tear down. We always seem to take about 2 hours longer setup than we plan. So just always plan for extra time. Some major difficulties we've personally faced with our event. I already mentioned weather. 1 year we had to postpone over a month and a half because the field was too wet for the cars to be able to park on. So that was a stressful year, refunding people. Make sure you keep good logs of who's attending, how much they paid, etc. Volunteers I've already touched on, but I like to keep a Excel sheet where I have all the different jobs that I'll need covered and the times that they'll occur to make sure I don't overlap a volunteer or expect them in 2 places at once. And then reservations, especially for our VIP, it's a little pricier. So finding people that can afford that and are willing to pay that can be a little hard. We do a lot of social media outreach. We try to reach out to businesses in the area because most college-age kids don't have friends that can afford the VIP options. We do have some families come. And then we have some Polo connections that come up from Milwaukee and from the Madison area. This is a very basic breakdown of our money flow for event revenue. So our 2 big incomes from the event are reservations and donations. We have our VIP reservations and then our general reservations. And the numbers under those are how much we made off of those specific categories at last year's event. And then we have our donations. We either have direct fiscal donations, which we try to raise before the event as well as the day of the event. And then we have our silent auction donations. All of our silent auction items are donated. So all of the money we bring off the silent auction is profit. The first year we did this, so 5 years ago, we made about $7,000, which we split with our fundraising partner. And by last year, which was our 4th year, we made around $12,000. That was intended to be a higher number, but due to the venue change and increased rates, we didn't make as much as we had hoped. Here's a very basic breakdown of our money flow last year. Expenses were around $7,300. Revenue was about $19,000, so our profit was about $12,600. That is split with our partners, with our apparel sales and everything. We made around $7,000 as a club. And what I say to all clubs and to my members constantly is that there is always room to grow and improve. Our facility personally costs around $33,000 a year. So if you think about $7,000, that's a small portion of just our facility expenses. That doesn't include vet, feed, farrier, equipment, etc. So we have dues as well, but we're constantly working on fundraising and growing this event as well as other events to bring in more revenue for the club. One of the ways we do that is through education and outreach, both at this event and during the semester. We really try to get people in the horse community involved in polo. We run clinics and community checkers to try and get them involved, both as donors and to grow the sport itself and get more players. We don't have a lot of players in the Madison area currently, so one of our goals has been feeding into both our summer and school programs. A lot of my community checker players have come from, they'll be at the benefit event and they'll hear about it and they'll funnel into our learning program. And then I just wanted to do a quick recap. I hit on it a lot, but volunteers, make sure you have your volunteers. The event, whatever event you plan, can't run if you're short people. If you don't have people to set up, help run things, answer questions. Set goals, get creative, go into it with a plan of what you want to get out of it. We have stations every year at ours with little like lessons, try to hit the ball. We'll have mini games. It varies year to year, but get creative, do fun things. And then I like to tell my kids, be prepared to be unprepared, because every year something happens that's not expected, some stressful change. So just always be ready for impromptu things, especially in the polo world. And that is all I have for you guys. Thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you, Amy. Caleb, you are up.
All right, thank you, Amy. That was awesome. Let me just get this set up. All right. So good afternoon. My name is Caleb Pilukas, and just a little brief background. I was president of the Michigan Intercollegiate Polo Club at the University of Michigan between 2016 and 2018, which is when I graduated. So we were a smaller college polo club. We had between 20 to 30 total members, but we maintained a full collegiate string of 12 horses. So as anyone in the polo world knows, the horse world, horses eat a lot and they require a lot of constant and expensive care. So a large part of our club activities were focused on raising funds to support the team and to try to keep individual member dues as low as possible. So there were several aspects of fundraising to the club. First and foremost, we could not have kept things going without constant support from our coaches, which are Paul and Emmeline Wheaton, and of our home club, the Detroit Polo Club. But those relationships were not only necessary when it came to maintaining our day-to-day operations, but also when it came to more direct fundraising activities. And one of those is what I want to talk about today. So back in 2016, we were looking for a way to get a little more bang for our buck when it came to fundraising in the winter semester. So it can be kind of challenging to get people to come out to matches and games in the winter. Up in Michigan, it's freezing out throughout the entire winter semester, and it can be tough to arrange any sort of large-scale event at a smaller indoor arena. So our club historically dealt with this problem by hosting a dinner in the winter semester to raise funds. And so in 2016, we decided to revamp that event, and that's how we came to have what we call the Polo Benefit Gala. So just kind of an overview of the event. We hosted a one-night catered fundraising dinner at the Graduate Hotel in Ann Arbor, which is where the University of Michigan is located. The event features a cocktail hour, catered dinner, silent auction, and live music. We hosted this event in February, which is about halfway through our winter season that runs January to the end of March. And so you can see on the slide to the right, one of our promotional banners that we use to advertise the event online. We hosted around 75 guests, and that's not including club members themselves. So I also want to take a moment to highlight the venue for the event. So I promise this is not a plug for the Graduate Hotel, but I do think it's important to highlight that we did choose our venue because of the hotel's relationship to the university. So as I'll point out this presentation, the goal of our event was to raise money. So we really wanted to put on an enjoyable event while cutting costs everywhere that we could. So this meant reaching out for donations, asking for discounts, and taking advantage of every opportunity that we had through our university and our community connections overall. So one huge example of this was that the Graduate actually waived the entirety of the room rental fee. They provided us separate conference room space free of charge, and they gave us a favorable rate on food and drink service compared to what they would charge non-university affiliated events. So I won't pretend that this still wasn't a huge risk for us when we did it, particularly in the first year. Any reservation at a high-end hotel like this requires some sort of upfront deposit, and we were locked in for food and beverage minimum, regardless of what our actual ticket sales were. So we were fortunate. We had a few years of similar dinners in the past that kind of gave us a ballpark of how many guests we could expect. And so we were a little more confident in putting that money forward, knowing that we would be able to recoup those costs with ticket sales. In the end, though, the catering and the event space was our highest cost related to the event, but I can confidently say it was entirely worth it. We had tried several on-campus venues in the past, which had the benefit of lower costs, but were not of the same caliber of event space and just frankly didn't entice people to spend as much when it came to donations and the silent auction. Also, for better or worse, with increased alcohol sales, you raise more funds. The university understandably had stricter rules on alcohol service and limitations on what could be sold, whereas the Graduate was a more typical bar and beverage service. Also, because it's a hotel, it provided the option for guests to stay for the weekend, and a couple of guests actually did. So in our second year of the event, in fact, an alumna rented out the penthouse suite at the grad, hosted an after party for the team members, which was an awesome way to celebrate the event and to bond with the club. So as I mentioned, our event featured a catered dinner, which was provided by the graduate. This was another plus to having a more high-end venue space. The food was a little bit better to deal with and when it was provided in-house, and allowed for a much more streamlined and professional looking event. So as you can see on the slide, we provided a menu ahead of time, which showed what we would be serving that night. We made sure to include several choices of entree and a vegetarian option. And because our venue handled the food and beverage service, it was actually one of the easier aspects of the event for the club to put on. In some years past, we had catered dinners through restaurants and just kind of did it on our own, but it was kind of a big job doing it that way, and it made it necessary for guests to actually have to do more when it came to service and cleanup. So overall, that's a little more distracting from enjoying the event and spending time at the silent auction and the donation table. So it was way easier just to all in-house. We made sure to organize our ticket sales so that they covered the costs of the venue, which included the catering. So in an ideal world, we would have had solicited a sponsor to kind of cover food costs ahead of time so that ticket sales would have just gone into the general profit of the event. But it can be kind of tough to get individuals and businesses to sign on to such a large sponsorship without a year or two of the event to show that it is a worthwhile endeavor. So for the 2 years that I originally did the event, we took that as our main cost, but in hopes that in the coming years, the success of the event will lead to increased sponsor activity. So I want to preface this next slide by saying that this event was a lot of fun because there was a lot of activity. During the cocktail hour, while guests arrived, there was background music playing, club members made rounds to talk to guests and introduce themselves. Music continued throughout dinner, and we invited club members to speak about our activities and, to be frank, to let people know what it was that they were there to support. We made sure to push the silent auction throughout the night to get people excited about placing their bets. After dinner, our live music ramped up, and we even had guests dancing and singing along. So the best part about all of this programming was that it was all donated. For the 2 years that I did the event, we had a 4-piece band with a Sinatra-style singer whose services were donated through a family connection. We organized an overview of club activities with speeches and presentations by club members. This included shouting out our coaches and our other supporters, as well as some of our key club members and alumni. After the event, the music and the presentations were the two parts of the event that everybody kind of said stuck out. So moving on to fundraising, there were 3 main sets of fundraising: the ticket sales, silent auction, and additional donations. So I'll take a little bit of a closer look at each of these in the next slides. So for ticket sales, a big part of any event is who you invite and how you invite them. We budgeted for paper invitations that we sent to everyone on our club's mailing list. We compiled a list of names, phone numbers, and addresses of sponsors, supporters, families of club members, families of alumni, and very importantly, the alumni themselves. We also advertised the event online through our website and Facebook and Instagram. So one of the most important aspects of this was timing. We made sure to send out all of our physical invitations early in January so that they would arrive about a month before the event to give people a chance to plan for it and put it on their calendars. We also posted regularly, at least once a week at first, and then more often on our club's Instagram and Facebook pages, as well as providing updates on the event and the link to buy tickets. So another big part of this is making it easy for people to pre-purchase tickets. We used a PayPal link that was embedded in our website to sell tickets online, but we also gave information about where people could buy tickets by cash or check. We increased the price of tickets at the door and provided an RSVP date so that we had a good idea of how many guests that we could expect prior to the day of the event. So the silent auction is one of the coolest parts of our event, and it's the main fundraising tool. So I really want to highlight that the silent auction consisted of baskets or other items that club members put together ourselves. This is a really fun part of the preparation of the event because club members are super creative, and they get to kind of go around and make different themes and baskets based on their different community connections and what they're interested in. So a lot of the baskets followed a certain theme. So for example, one club member put together a really popular whiskey and cigar basket, and he did that for several years, and it kind of became more popular as time went on. Other baskets would be like a movie night in or dinner out, and have gift certificates to restaurants or other local businesses, and fun smaller items that kind of follow the same theme. So importantly, all of the items in the silent auction are donated, so any money raised goes directly into the event's profit. This is another area where it is really important to mobilize university and community connections. Our club members go around to local businesses, particularly those that have a relationship to the university, in order to solicit donations for the auction. We also had items like a polo lesson at the Detroit Polo Club or tickets to a summer event to include with the auction. So when we approach businesses, we bring a paper invitation to the event with us. And because our club is also a 501c3 nonprofit, we can provide a receipt of the donation for tax purposes if the business wishes. So we found that businesses, particularly those with different relationships to the university or to club members or to the horse world, were super excited to hear about the event. Several of them came to the event, and they were really, and sometimes even those that didn't know about, polo or anything in general, were really excited to hear about the club and what we were doing. So we had several people after the first year also ask about online bidding. This can be like somewhat tough to coordinate, but there are services available that allow for online bidding in conjunction with an in-person silent auction. In today's world, this might be more of a necessity, but it does require a dedicated member to keep the bids up to date. And then moving on to additional donations. The key is, first, to make it really easy for people to donate to the club, and second, to not be afraid to ask for donations. Guests at the event know that it's a fundraiser, so they generally expect that you're going to ask for money at some point. This can be like somewhat awkward to do, so there are kind of easier, better ways to go about it. First, we keep a GoFundMe running, and we start that when we initially announce the event. We provide that link on the invitations and with all of our online promotional materials. A lot of times, if people could not make the event, they would still donate instead. Second, we provided different donation tiers for potential sponsorship of the club. So for example, we had a platinum, gold, silver, and bronze tiers for different levels of donation based on how much people donated. So along with donations of certain amounts, we would include either apparel or jerseys or other items as kind of a thank you for the donation. Third, we made sure to stock up on apparel and sell it at the event, and also provided a link to our online shop. Although apparel does require an upfront purchase, people really like to buy it at events like this and at other games and matches, so it's always good to have it out. Our total profit in the first year was about $5,000 after all of our costs. This number included the silent auction as well as some notable donations that came from guests at the event. In the second year, we brought in $4,000, the difference accounting for less large donations that year than the first. However, in the second year, the silent auction actually brought in more than it did in the first year, which did demonstrate an increase in spending on that section of the event. So just a few other tips. We wanted to include some little things that might be a little bit helpful throughout the process of planning and putting on the event. So a big part of fundraising in general, and particularly a large fundraising event, is to have consistent branding. We maintained a color scheme in our advertising using hex color codes. We also put our club's crest on everything that we put out. At the event, we set up a photo booth with the crest in the background and our hashtags and our handle from Instagram. It is also super important to maintain a connection with your alumni. Alumni love to see their club doing cool things even after they have graduated. And a lot of alumni want to get back in connection with the club however they can. Now that I'm an alumni, I can definitely speak to that it's very true that I love to see the club doing cool things and to be as involved as I can. So we were lucky to have many years of alumni of our club that were super supportive, and you never know when one might like rent out the penthouse and host an after party. So keep an eye out for those kind of things. Just a few quick other tips. We tried to personalize the event space as much as we could. I mentioned that we had a photo booth with props as well as our crest, handle, and an event hashtag to encourage social media engagement. This was a fun way to advertise and get people involved in the event and mingling with the team and amongst themselves as guests. As with any event, scheduling is hugely important. Putting on a fundraising dinner like this really starts about a year out. We started coordinating at the beginning of the summer, more than 9 months before the actual event date. We had the space reserved in November and invitations sent out in the beginning of January. We started having members gather donations at the beginning of the school year just to give ourselves as much time as possible. Particularly for college students, it can be difficult with everyone's school responsibilities to spend a ton of time on planning. So it is crucial to have a schedule in place and to start everything as early as possible. We also made sure to send out thank yous to our guests and particularly to our donors from the event. This also gave us an opportunity to highlight the success of the event and to set ourselves up for next year by saying, see you next year, look out for our next announcement of the date for the following year. So that's most of my presentation. I would be happy to answer any questions that anyone has. If you have questions later on, feel free to reach out to me at the email that's on the screen. I thank you so much for having me, and I hope everybody is enjoying their summer.
Great, thank you, Caleb. We will go ahead and open it up for questions for either Amy or Caleb, if anybody has any.
I have one. This is Sherry. So with COVID, are you still going to be able to do some fundraising this year, or has that kind of been squashed? I know each state is kind of different, but like here in California, I don't know that we could put on any type of an event. So does anybody have any info on that?
I think it's probably going to be, like you said, state by state and county by county for right now. You know, keep monitoring it.
We did not have our event this year because of COVID. We usually have like 300 plus people at our event, which would definitely be a no-go with current situations. We've discussed trying to still do like an online silent auction type thing because we still have all the people that usually donate to our silent auction. So we've been thinking about reaching out to them and doing a virtual version, or even potentially recording a game live and doing like a virtual watch and bid. I have not figured out the electronic logistics of that yet, so I can't give too much advice on it, but those are ideas we've had.
That's a good idea, Amy, with the online silent auction. Last summer, USC Aiken did one via Facebook, and it was very popular, and they made they got a lot of different things donated, from, you know, riding lessons to artwork to tack, and that was very successful.
Yeah, I would definitely say there's a potential for certain online activities. I think just for fundraising in general, really mobilizing those different online platforms to raise funds throughout the year is going to be really important. You know, given the circumstances that we're facing right now, fingers crossed, you know, moving forward, we'll be able to kind of go back to something resembling normal to be able to put on certain events and whatnot, because I do think that's a good way to get the club's names out there and to kind of solicit more involvement from donors. But at the same time, I feel like there's still a lot of ways that we can kind of maintain an online presence. And, you know, it'd be cool to be able to try to do, you know, remote silent auctions and stuff like that, because I do think people are still ready, like still willing to and wanting to support the clubs. And so it would just be a matter of us finding a way to do that that makes the most sense.
Caleb, do you know what software you guys used for your virtual bidding?
You know, I don't remember off the top of my head which one we used. We looked at a few different ones. I think, you know, several of them were, you know, included a charge. So I think we tried to minimize cost on it. We didn't have too many people that used it because we were still doing it with, you know, with the in-person event. But we did have one person who was updating bids online and with remote bids for people that were not. But I want to say, like I said, it wasn't a lot of people, just because most people were at the event that we're gonna look for items.
Hey, Caleb and Amy, my name is Jake, and I'm out in San Diego County. I hope you're doing well today. Would you each touch base on something that's more of a lesson learned, or even like, if I could redo this thing at that event, how would you do it? What's the lesson learned?
You want first or second, Caleb?
Go ahead.
Okay. I briefly mentioned it, but I think the biggest thing for me is we've always split profits 50-50 with our partners. And I think that's been a mistake because we've done a lot more of the work and filled a lot more of the tables. The reservation side is hard because you don't know ahead of time who's going to fill tables or not fill tables. But I think I hesitated from having that conversation with the donors after we'd gotten kind of a system in place. And I think if I could go back, I would be more direct in addressing that with them, because I think they would have been fine with it because they're still making money for, showing up and doing a 20-minute demonstration.
Thanks for that perspective.
Yeah, I mean, for me, and what I kind of like tried to touch on too in the presentation was just that timing is everything. You just don't realize until you're there how many little things have to get done in order to be able to put something on like that. So I found, particularly in the first year, it was like a week before the event, and I was like, oh my gosh, like how am I going to do, A through Z on my list of things to do? So timing, super important, but one of the remedies to that issue as well is cooperation and coordination among different people in the club, and then whoever else that you're bringing in to help out. So, none of these events are one person things. Like I could have never done this all by myself, so we had 20 to 30 club members that were all getting silent auction items, that were helping coordinate the event, helping with guest check-in, coat check. I mean, a million things. So the biggest thing I think is plan ahead, kind of think about as much as you can, and then organize all of those different players so that you kind of have things set up beforehand and you're not, kind of caught having to figure things out on your feet later on. So definitely give yourself as much time as possible is really, really important.
Thank you.
Piggybacking off of that, I think the time, like I said, timing the day of the event is huge too. The first year we did it, people started showing up and we had our tablecloths weren't taped down. We didn't have all the decorations up because we just hadn't allotted enough time. It was really windy that day, so everything we were trying to set up was blowing over. We didn't have enough tape to tape it down, so just trying to get there early. We used to always put our tent up the night before, and one year we had a horrible lightning storm the night before, and the poles were getting shocked with lightning, and all the guys were running underneath it, and the static was making all their hair stand up on end, and we were standing there watching this is a terrible idea. So I think just allotting extra time for everything.
I like your point of be prepared to not be prepared. Try to think of all the things that could go wrong. Something will. One other plug for our II funding program is that we do have a $1,000 grant to II teams to put on a fundraiser. Details on that are on our website, and teams need to apply. I believe it's 3 weeks. I think we're trying to get a little bit more closer to that 6-week time frame out from your event, so we can try to review it and give you more ideas or see gaps where we can help fill it and give you different ideas and work through it. You guys, both your teams have taken advantage of that, those funds, and so that was our plug on that. Holly, I know you had, there you are. You're still on mute though.
Howdy.
There you go.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. I'm going to keep this short. Thanks for Amy and Emily allowing me to do this for a couple minutes. And I will keep this very short. So my background, I'm Holly Holleran. I coached at Skidmore and UVA. I also ran, I was remembering this is way back when, before Amy and Emily, I ran the both tournaments, Scholastic and Collegiate, when Kim Syme was on maternity leave. So, and now they're big. So you can tell that was a few years ago. So I love Polo, been in it since the 80s, live about 10 minutes from Kelly and Brendan and Marissa Wells, whom I'm sure you all know. I started a company a couple years ago called Tico's Whoopies based on my grandmother's recipes. Does anybody know what a whoopie pie is? Raise your hand. There's actually a picture of it. Looks like a moon pie, big giant sandwich cake with different cream. This is actually key lime. We just are featuring key lime for the summer. And part of the mission of my company was to give back to nonprofits. And we have a Tico's 10% program, which is 10% of the profits back to a nonprofit. Currently, it's Leslie Heiner's Work to Ride program, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with down in Philadelphia. And being a coach and having been involved with the II program for so long, I know how hard it is to raise funding. So I've been working on a couple ideas for fundraising for y'all across the country, super easy. One is similar to the Amazon Smile program, where you send out an email or promote it on Facebook, any other social media about the company, and you get then a kickback for every order that is generated with, say, code, University of Michigan code, whatever. So it's super simple. It's just sending out emails and promoting it that way and getting a constant year-round kickback. So, which obviously the bills don't go away even if it's in the summer and we're sort of starting off behind the 8 ball with what happened this spring and not having the tournaments and not having a lot of your fundraisers. So I'm in it for the long haul because I love polo, I love coaching, umpiring, and I believe in this. And I know how much the funds are needed. Second program, which is really cool, is called What's Your Whoopie Polo Moment, which is a video contest for all II clubs, which we will reward with a monetary prize, which is really cool. So creating a video, basically what's your whoopie moment, interviews with players in your club, or what got them into polo, who their favorite pony is, what their coolest fall off moment is, or game, or best score in a goal, anything. That sky's the limit. It's up to your interpretation, but it's kind of a cool contest back and forth. And we'll have then voting at the end online and all that. So those are the two things. And I'm going to be sending out an email in the near future to you all, as well as this is the cool opportunity that all you need to do is email me, Tico, T-I-C-O. It's ticoswhoopies.com is the website, but Tico at Tico's Whoopies, and I will send you a free sample box of whoopie pies, which Emily and Amy have already had. I think they will attest to. They're pretty good, right? And so I can send you one of those so that you understand what whoopie pies are, and you can speak obviously on how great they are, and then you'll be coming from a good platform as far as promoting them to make you guys money. So we have flavors in peanut butter, chocolate, red velvet, and right now we have lemon. Yeah, pumpkin, thanks. And we have lemon and actually our key lime for the summer. So it's pretty cool. So free box, email me at Tico, T-I-C-O, at ticoswhoopies.com. Thank you, Jake. They're killer. And I'm ready to make you guys money. And you can call me too as well at 877-TICO-LOVE, L-U-V. But I'll begin getting y'all an email here in the near future. But I'm really excited about this program. Amy and Emily have been great. We've been talking about this for quite a while, and I'm really jazzed up because I miss being deep in the II world, and this is sort of my chance to give back and to still be involved. And when we have our next nationals, whenever that'll be, I'll be there handing out free samples as well. If any of you guys were at the UVA Invitational Tournament 2 falls ago, I was there handing out emails. I don't know if anybody on this group was there, but so you can attest to that, that they're good. But anyway, so any questions? I'm happy to help, but thanks for the time, guys.
Right. They are delicious. Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other questions for anyone? Awesome. Well, thank you again, Amy and Caleb and Holly, for your presentations. And we will wrap it up for today. Next week's meeting, August 6th. It is August already, next week. We have Dr. Molly and Beth Supik back again for Nutrition for Your Polo polo string, and we will be back at that noon Eastern time frame. So link is available online to pre-register for that, and we hope to see you all again next week. Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
Bye, guys.
Amy. Thanks, Emily.